Alright guys, so I'm going to show how I installed the Digitrax SDN144KOa Sound Decoder into my Kato frame. This works for the E89s, the PAs, and the E5s are also basically, this is the same exact frame as the E89, so the installation works the same for all of them. What I did was I used the Aztec Manufacturing milled frame in order to do the installations. In order to do that, I have to disassemble the engine itself and then mail out the frame so that I can get milled out by John over at Aztec Manufacturing. Just a couple day turnaround time, and when you get it back, what he's going to do for you, he's going to drill out a hole for the speaker. He drills out for a 16mm speaker, and then he's also going to mill out a hole for the capacitor, which is attached to the decoder, which I think Digitrax uses as a keep alive for the sound, just in case you run over some bad track. The installation itself is pretty easy and straightforward. The only thing with this is that Digitrax, when you get the decoder from them, is a smaller decoder, a smaller speaker in here. It's only a 13mm speaker, so it actually falls right into the hole. So you do have to do something before. If you want to retain the Digitrax speaker, you have to fill in the hole a little bit with something. I'm going to show you what I used. But of course, you can also upgrade the speaker. Since this is milled out for a 16mm speaker, and a bigger speaker will give you a little better bass. The 13mm speaker is fine. I'm actually just starting to convert all my engines to DCC, and in the future, I can go ahead and upgrade the speakers. Right now, I mean, it's a lot of decoders I have to buy and install right now, so it's something I can postpone to later. But since it is a 13mm speaker and a 16mm hole, I need to fill in the hole with something so that the speaker doesn't fall right in, and I can maintain a good sound. So what I found is that I've got some spacers that are used for a HPI Racing's shocks on their RS4 road car, and what I did is I got two different size spacers. One's a little bigger than the other, and they actually fit perfectly in the hole. And I like to install this prior to installing everything else back onto the engines, because I do have to kind of push it around a little bit. So first I'll put the smaller of the spacers in, and then I'll turn it 90 degrees and I'll put the larger spacer in on top. And I like to turn it 90 degrees because I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the camera, but there is a little bit of a space because it's not doesn't fit it exactly, so there is about a 2mm gap between them. And then when I install the speaker, what I'll do is I'll install the speaker all the way up to the edge over here to make sure that I cover up that hole, and that just helps keeps the sound going in here, so that it stays in there, and then the sound that I want to hear is going to come out from the top. With these little speakers, it actually gets very important that you help separate the sound waves, because they all cancel each other out. There is no top and bottom to a speaker. Whichever way it fits in, it fits in. So since I've installed that already, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to proceed to put the engine back together. Once I'm done putting the engine back together, I'll turn the camera back on and I'll show you how to actually install the decoder itself. Alright, so I've gone ahead and put the engine back together again, and now it is time to actually reinstall the electronics. Now, when you're putting in the copper strips that supply the power to the decoder, you want to make sure that you insulate the strip from the motor tabs. This way you can control the current. What I do is I wrap around the Captain tape right over here and I make sure that I wrap it over the outside edge, and then I cut it flush on the inside edge. You only need to insulate the outer edge because that's what's going to be hitting the motor tab itself. And then go ahead and install that. The actual motor assembly itself has a little tab right here which will help locate the strip itself. So not too hard. It's pretty easy to get it installed in the right spot. You can't really mess that up. Although it can be a little bit of a pain sometimes getting it all in the rear. Now, this is actually my second time shooting this video. The last time my camcorder did not want to cooperate with the computer, so I'm reshooting this again. So I've already modified the decoder by one. I remove obviously the rear LED. I prefer to desolder these, and I also make the leads shorter for the speaker and for the capacitor, just because I don't want to have a whole lot of wire sitting on top there, and then you got to put Captain tape or something else on there to keep the wires in check. So this way it keeps everything nice and tight. So now going to just go ahead and put that on there. And the way the decoder sits in here, just like the original LED light board, Kato does have a little tab right here which holds onto the back of the board. So you're just going to put it on and then just slide it back slightly. Then the next step is going to be to go ahead and push the motor tabs down onto the tabs on the decoder. What I like to do is I prefer to use a toothpick, and that just to help push everything down. And the toothpick will help prevent you messing up any of the electronics. I mean, it's still possible, but at least with the wood being softer, should be a little easier. Alright, so now that once that's down on there, you have a couple of options as far as the tabs go. You can, if you want to, solder them on. I've actually soldered most of these on already, but the clip does a good enough job most of the time. I've just had occasional problems where I've had to solder them on, but definitely a solder connection would definitely be stronger, and you wouldn't have to worry about any kind of loose joints there. Now, if you're going to be using the tab again like I'm doing right now, or the clip that Kato gives you, just want to get it in position. I like to use the toothpicks as kind of, or the tweezers because it's kind of tight, and then just push it straight down. Make sure you have a nice firm connection, and you want to make sure that the tab itself is flush down here and nice and tight. Now, one of the reasons why I like to shorten up the leads on here is so that I don't have any excess wire, and then I can make sure it's nice and tight over here. Same thing I do with the speakers themselves. In order to attach the speaker, you're just going to remove the adhesive pad, and then we're going, like I said before, I'm going to install the speaker to the rear of the clip so I can cover up that hole and just push down firmly on there, and that'll keep it in position. Now, one thing that needs to be done with the E8s and E9s is that the headlight lens right here does protrude down too close to the LED. So in order for it to fit, because what happens when the capacitor in there, the LED can't bend down enough to clear it. So you just have to shave off a little bit so that the frame will fit right back down in there. So once that's done, all you're going to do is put the shell back on. That's it. Fits in perfect. Alright, and then we're ready to hear what it sounds like. Alright, so we're back. The locomotive's all done, complete, everything's installed on it. I've put it on a piece of Kato Unitrack that I'm using as a test track, just to make sure everything works. I'm using an NCE power cab. This is a great starter system. Fairly inexpensive, and does a great job, although it can only handle 4 locomotives with the power cab. On N scale, I think 2 with HO, but it is an upgradable system. So as my needs arise, that I need more and more power, I can just add to the system itself, so it shouldn't be any issue. Now back to what we started with. So the first thing to start the locomotive up, we're going to do is we're just going to give it just a little bit of power. and you can hear the prime mover going. Alright, and now we're going to head and hit the horn. So you can see that's pretty loud for a very tiny locomotive and a really tiny speaker. Then we got the bell. Now, I don't know if it's going to be possible to hear this, but as you power up the loco, the prime mover will also move up in speed. Now, there are other adjustments you can make on here to actually raise the volume on everything, and that's just you would have to pull out your owner's manual that comes with the controller, and then you've got your different CV values to adjust the volumes and everything. And once if you raise up the volumes for your prime mover, your bell, your horn, it actually does make quite a bit of difference because they are set a little on the lower end. But once again, really easy installation to get the sound decoder installed on here, especially if you use Aztec Manufacturing's milled frames. Much easier than trying to mill out your frame yourself, worth every penny that John charges, and wants it in really quick turnaround. I think it only took a couple of days from me mailing out the frames and him mailing me back new frames that were milled out. But I'll put a link down. It's called aztectrains.com is the actual website. Because I put a link down in there. If anybody has any questions about anything I've done today, please post them in the comment section. I'll try my best to answer them. If anybody has anything in particular they want me to try to video, I'll do that as well if I can, as time permits. I hope you guys pick something up from watching the installation of the sound decoder into the Kato units, and I hope you guys have fun with the hobby. Bye.